It was a day where smoke met fire, where rumors met reality, where potential began to crystallize into purpose as the Chicago Bears opened their gates to the media for the second time this offseason during OTA sessions. And while on paper it may have just been another spring practice, beneath the surface it was anything but. Because what unfolded was a symphony of emotion, a storm of storylines, and a tidal wave of insight that revealed who might rise, who might fall, and who might change the destiny of this franchise forever, starting with none other than the man at the center of the NFL universe, Caleb Williams, whose every step, every throw, and every word was under the kind of microscope reserved for quarterbacks drafted to save a city starving for football glory, and before a single route was run or a single snap was taken, Caleb himself stepped up to the podium to crush the noise, destroy the headlines, and clear the air about the ESPN report that painted him as a quarterback reluctant to wear navy and orange, a quarterback who supposedly didn't want to come to Chicago, and with a calm but firm tone, he said what needed to be said. After I came on my pre-draft visit here, it was a deliberate and determined answer. I wanted to come here. And just like that, the weight lifted. The narrative shattered, the doubts turned to dust, because the face of the franchise looked the press in the eye and told the world that not only was he here, but he chose to be here. That this wasn't a hostage situation. This wasn't bitterness disguised as professionalism. This was genuine desire, fire, and vision for what could be built in the Windy City. But while Caleb was busy speaking truth into the microphone, across the field, battles were brewing, depth charts were being shaken, and positions once considered locked in were suddenly wide open, especially at left tackle where rookie Aneze, AJ Trapilo, didn't just jog with the first-team unit. He owned it, took every snap, stood firm against the rush, and earned the praise of former NFL tight end and analyst Clay Harbor, who said, quote, "He held his own and did a nice job. And that may sound simple, but it's anything but. When you're protecting the blind side of the most scrutinized rookie quarterback in football, and Trapilo's emergence was no fluke because Patrick Finley doubled down on the buzz by confirming that the Bears are keeping Darnell Wright at right tackle. For now, meaning that the coaching staff is open to reshuffling the line if the right combination reveals itself. And while Braxton Jones' continued absence raises questions about his future, Trapilo's performance may be giving Ben Johnson something he desperately craves. Options. Because, let's not forget, Drew Dahlman is locked in at center, Jonah Jackson at right guard, Joe Thuney at left guard, and now with three legit contenders for two tackle spots in Wright, Trapilo, and developmental wildcard Kieran Amagaji. This unit could quietly become one of the deepest offensive lines in the entire NFC North. But the trench warfare wasn't the only story being written, because elsewhere on the field, Cole Kmet, who's faced trade rumors, critics, and the ghosts of offensive coordinators past, reminded everyone why he's still one of the most physically gifted tight ends in football as he caught pass after pass, moved fluidly in motion, and operated out of multiple alignments, showcasing exactly why Ben Johnson might unleash the kind of devastating 12 personnel packages that made Detroit so dangerous during his time with the Lions. Especially now that Kmet is paired with Colston Loveland, giving Caleb Williams two massive security blankets who can stretch the seam and bulldoze defenders in the red zone. And while that's exciting on paper, reality isn't always smooth because Williams had his share of growing pains too, getting picked off by both Tremaine Edmonds and Jaquan Brisker on throws over the middle, mistakes that matter not because of the failure, but because of what they signal, the start of the process. The beginning of transformation, the slow, painful mastery of a system that actually has continuity, vision, and quarterback development baked into its DNA. Unlike what he would have dealt with under the chaos of Shane Waldron or the ghost of Matt Nagy. And that's why even with the interceptions, even with the stumbles, this practice was a win for Williams because you could see the gears turning, the fire burning, the coaching clicking, and in the midst of it all, you saw Ben Johnson, the architect of it all, pulling no punches, calling out the offense for sloppy execution, sending players back to the huddle, demanding perfection. And that's exactly what this team needs because discipline is the only thing separating hype from history, potential from performance. And while the spotlight was on Caleb, Case Keenum was quietly emerging as a central figure behind the scenes, a veteran who nearly retired but instead took a call from the Bears, met with Johnson, and realized this wasn't just another gig. This was a mission, a revival, a chance to help shape the future by being the kind of mentor Caleb never had in college. And Keenum didn't just talk the talk. He took every second-team snap, displayed poise, and praised Caleb's effortless arm talent in a way that didn't feel like lip service, but rather the honest recognition of someone who's been in the league long enough to know greatness when he sees it. And suddenly this quarterback room, once mocked as inexperienced and fragile, looked like a fortified bunker ready to withstand the chaos of Sundays. And speaking of chaos, nothing's more concerning than injuries. And unfortunately, the list of players who didn't participate on May 28th was longer than Bears fans would like to admit, with names like Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Terrell Smith, Elijah Hicks, TJ Edwards, Ryan Bates, and Colson Loveland all missing from action. And while Ben Johnson confirmed that both Gordon and Edwards are dealing with soft tissue injuries, injuries you don't want to linger, it's hard not to feel a slight sense of dread when newly extended players are already sidelined. But the silver lining came in the form of Andrew Billings, the run-stuffing anchor who returned to the field and reminded everyone why his presence is vital for this defense to function at an elite level. And if that wasn't enough drama, the competition at linebacker is heating up between Noah Sewell and rookie phenom Rook Hilton, a battle that could determine who flanks Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards in Dennis Allen's evolving scheme. A scheme that's starting to resemble the kind of aggressive attacking front that can actually win in January. And while we're talking defense, the backfield depth is under the microscope with so many missing bodies, forcing younger players to step up in ways they probably didn't expect to this early in the offseason. And now more than ever, it's becoming clear that every snap, every rep, every ounce of film matters because roster spots are not guaranteed. And Ben Johnson is making that crystal clear through how he runs these practices. Tight, intense, competitive. And whether it's Keenum versus Bagant for QB2, Trapilo versus Amagaji for LT1, or Sewell versus Hilton for that final linebacker spot, the common denominator is simple. Iron is sharpening iron, and these bears are being forged in fire. And if that sounds dramatic, it's because it is. This is the start of something new, something rare, something real. And the mood around Hollis Hall reflects that with a kind of energy not seen in years. And as the session wrapped and the pads came off, what stood out the most wasn't a specific highlight or even a specific player, but rather the collective sense that this team is waking up from a long, dark sleep, that the Chicago Bears, long a punchline, might finally be building something not just competitive but dangerous. And as Caleb worked on footwork drills in the humid spring air, still rocking the shorts, still flashing that grin, you couldn't help but feel like you were watching the beginning of a new chapter. Not just in Bears history, but in NFL history. Because when the media left and the field emptied, one truth remained undeniable. These Bears aren't here to entertain. They're here to conquer. And every dropped pass, every interception, every breakout rep from a young tackle or a hungry linebacker is part of that ascent. So bookmark this day, remember this practice, because when the season kicks off and the lights are bright, you'll be able to trace the roar back to this moment. May 28, 2025, when the Chicago Bears began turning questions into answers, rumors into reality, and potential into power, one rep at a time.